Hey guys and gals, Effie here. Today I want to talk to you about Daniel B. Greene's debut novella, Breach of Peace. We're going to talk about some things that I like about the book, a few things that I think may have been done a little bit better, a little bit about the author, and then of course at the end whether or not I recommend that you buy it. I did purchase this book for less than $5 on Amazon using my own money. I have not been solicited or paid for this review in any way. I do not know the author. Okay, let's talk about the overall story and theming. The book is set in a fantasy world that feels roughly lined up with the Victorian era. There's some sort of Sherlock Holmesy vibes, carriages and lanterns, and they do have firearms, but they seem to be lever lock or lever load firearms. This is also very clearly not set on Earth, or at least not the Earth as we know it, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute. The primary story follows Detective Clyde, her husband, and their frenemy as they investigate a murder in a prominent family. The deeper they dig into the murder, the deeper they find themselves embedded in a conspiracy. During the story, they kind of question each other, they question the system at large, they question their place in the world, and it all it's very tense and very intense, but in the best way. There's also a secondary story, sort of an overarching theme that I think is going to carry from this book on through the series that he's writing, and that is that God has come down from heaven to reign on earth as an emperor. He is the leader of an empire, absolute unquestioned authority, and all of the sort of wonder and horror that having an almighty figure as your leader would entail. The concept gave me sort of 1984 vibes with God as Big Brother, and I thought that the concept was really cool. But I have a little bit more to say about that, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. All right, let's talk about a few things that I liked. The writing in the book, the prose, the actual words on the page were beautiful. I found Daniel's writing to be very visceral and very evocative and very image-inducing. So I was sort of watching all of the scenes play out in my head as I read in these shades of like blue and gray and gold. It was all very film noir, very like old school black and white detective story feeling and vibes while I was reading it, and I really liked that. I was really into it. Hello. Sorry, Jack wanted to say hello. Anyway, so while I was reading it, hi Eddie, can you go back downstairs? So the whole story was playing out in my head in shades of blue and green and gold, and it was all just really beautiful and very visual, and I really appreciated the detail of the descriptions. Not too much detail, not boring detail, not over-the-top detail, just enough that you could see everything that was happening in your mind's eye, and not to the point that it was overwhelming or dull to read, which was just the right amount for me. Of course, that's subjective. Maybe you like Tolkien-esque style of going into every grain of sand, but that's not really my thing. I also feel like he did a good job of world building in a way that felt really natural. There weren't any big long expositions, there weren't any breaks to sort of explain what was going on. All of the world building and all of the overarching concept, that secondary concept we talked about, was just sort of naturally woven into the story as he was telling it. So I thought he did a really good job of that. I also found the overarching story of the series overall to be really interesting and evocative. I'm looking very forward to reading the next novellas, and I will be buying them, and we'll review them on this channel when they come out. I think the concept of an almighty entity with absolute power and everything that goes along with it to be really interesting. Frightening, but interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. Sort of an absolute power corrupts absolutely sort of thing. Just because I really liked the book does not mean that everything was perfect. This book is meant to be our introduction to this world where God is walking among men and ruling over an empire. And I'm not necessarily sure that that concept conveyed clearly to people who didn't grow up with deep roots in the church. Some of the negative reviews I've seen about the book itself seem to be tied to people just not getting the God as emperor concept. To me, this could have been easily addressed by simply making the book a little longer. Taking the time, spending the extra 10, 15,000 words to add enough information in that even people who grew up in a secular world, people who didn't grow up going to church, people who don't have deep roots in religion, could have easily grasped those concepts and understood. And it's really a shame because it's such a cool concept, right? Another solution would be to simply take, 2 or 3 of these. Excuse me, can you get down? Go on. Good boy. Taking 2 or 3 of these stories and lumping them together in a single cover, right? So maybe Act 1 is Clyd and her husband and their frenemy. Maybe Act 2 is whoever story is coming next, and just sort of clustering them together, and using them as 3 separate stories, all within the same world, all clustered together to sort of build that world concept for us. And I think that would have helped a lot with people who don't have religious roots, understanding the overarching story that's going on here. That is literally my only complaint about the book. I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was beautifully written. I love the way he writes. I am looking very forward to picking up the next few that he writes. I've seen people complaining that it didn't feel like a full story, and I disagree wholeheartedly. I thought that it was very well rounded. I liked the end. I loved the end. I thought it was unexpected and a surprise, and in the very best way. I don't get surprised in books often, so I really appreciated that this one kind of it's like, oh, that happened. Okay. So that was pretty cool, and I'm looking very forward to reading more of his work. So, quick recap for those of you who fast forward to the end. Overall, I enjoyed this little book. I found the storytelling set within the book and the beginning of the arc that will presumably span over the next few novellas in the series both interesting and well written. I thought that the author's writing style is both beautiful and very mature. So I'll be reading it again to pick up the finer details before I pick up the next one. I don't know what else there is to say about it. I loved it. If you'd like your own copy of Breach of Peace, I will be giving a copy away in 7 days to one random person on my mailing list. I will cover US shipping. If you live overseas, of course, you'll need to cover your own shipping, but it shouldn't be that much. It's a small book, lightweight, shouldn't cost that much. If you want to sign up for this and other book giveaways, or if you want to just kind of check up on me and see how I'm progressing in the writing of my own novel, you can sign up for both at effywritesbooks.com, and of course I'll link that down in the description. If you found this video helpful or informative, or you just like the way that I present information and want to hang out again, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to be notified when I post new videos, you can follow me on any of the social media linked down below, or you can ding the little bell down there and YouTube will let you know when I put new stuff up. Thank you so much for watching. Have an excellent day, and I'll see you next time.